Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is Sunday, and Sundays I generally do a chat video with a bit of a cook with me if I need to or not. We're in the kitchen, so obviously today I have some kitchen plans. Let me just turn that down. I have about 700 grams of diced bacon in a Dutch oven pot on the stove that I'm cooking down slowly. I'm going to render it down a little bit, and I'm going to dice some onions up, put it in there, as well as some garlic and stuff. And this is going to be turned into sausage rolls with some pork mince. Now I have to dice the pork mince the pork as well. So it's going to be a long-winded exercise, but I generally get enough sausage rolls when I do it for quite a few meals, so they go in the freezer, and these are one of the things that the kids adore reheating and eating. So it's been on the plans to do, and I just haven't got there. So today is going to be doing that with the normal chat and catch up that I do for Sundays. It has been a long week, so I've only really got one video out again this week, I think. So I'm only getting 2 videos a week out at the moment instead of my normal 3. There is still just a lot going on. I got reprimanded a little bit in the comments that I shouldn't be whinging because, I just got gifted a car and I managed to earn my bonus and all the rest of it. And I try really, really hard not to whinge and not to be very woe is me. But everybody's struggles are their own. And at the time, those struggles are or can be completely overwhelming to each individual person. And that struggle to someone else might seem like nothing. But for the person who's in that struggle, it's pretty significant. Now, even to an outsider, if I went into detail about some of the behind the scenes stuff that's going on, our struggles at the moment are pretty significant. But I am grateful, extraordinarily grateful, for having this platform and for people wanting to watch, and for things like the car that was gifted to me and being able to earn my $10,000 bonus through Thermomix, though I did have to work to do that as well. Like, it wasn't just handed to me. And I'm grateful that we have this property, and I'm grateful that we get to live the way we live, and that I have family and everything here and all that. Don't get me wrong. I am extraordinarily grateful for where my life currently is, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. But there is just some stuff going on, and eventually I might be able to discuss it a bit more, but at the moment, for a start, it's a little too fresh, and so trying to discuss it can be difficult. But also, a lot of it still has its path to travel, and we will get there when we get there, sort of thing. But anyway, I did open up the memberships like I discussed on the last Sunday chat. I was looking at setting up somewhere a private social media type. I don't know, you could do Facebook groups, but I don't use Facebook a whole lot. I'm pretty slack with Facebook, actually. And I find the notifications on Facebook quite difficult. I find it quite difficult to navigate, especially if I'm trying to monitor stuff coming in and what's being said and trying to get back to everyone and things like that. I really like the platform Discord, but I know that it's not familiar to a lot of people, but it has an app for the phone. It's free. And it's you can break the chat area in different sections. So we were talking about like doing this, like a book club type thing. You could have a whole channel that's devoted to people who want to be involved in the book club, and anyone who doesn't, they can mute that channel and they don't even have to look in it, and things like that. But it also means that things are more trackable. So like if someone asks a question and someone wants to go hunting for the answer, it's all there just scrolled back, and you can search and things like that. So let me know. I don't know how many people use Discord or whether they're interested, but maybe it's worth having a look at. And then I can set up a whole sort of a server that's just our small footprint server. And you can even be given roles and stuff in there. So like, if you're a member, you can have access to members only sections. And then if you're not, we can have a free section for all those people who aren't members, because I really hate not including everyone, because everyone who watches my videos supports me, and I am super grateful for that. Every single person who watches the videos, whether you pay a membership or not, is supporting me and my family. But at the same time, if people want to help out that little bit extra, and I want to provide them something for that, I don't want that to be for nothing. So we could do the members only sections and hopefully some lives and things like that eventually. There's even opportunity to just do voice chat on Discord or something. I don't know how it's going to work. This is coming along with me learning as well. So, but I did open them up so that I could get that bonus that they're advertising. And I know YouTube's only offering the bonus to get you signed up because it makes them money too. So someone commented about what percentage do they take. Apparently it's 30% that YouTube takes from memberships, which is less than the AdSense percentage, but still a considerable hike. But at the same time, they're the ones dealing with all the payment gateways and everything else, and I just get a once a month payment added to my monthly thing. So not having to control that is beneficial as well, because it's not something for me to forget. Anyway, I'm going to grab a knife and start cutting these onions while I think of what else we need to or want to cover. I got some photos and stuff to share, so just let me find my knife. All right, I did have a comment on the last video that about my breathing again. Every now and again I run into problems with mic placement. It should be good today, but I have bought a couple of new hoodies lately as samples for if I want to use them for merch and stuff, and in doing so I've been wearing them to see how I feel about them and the fabric and stuff. And the thing is that the one that I was wearing is really, really high necked, which I actually hate. I would not wear that particular one, but it meant that I had to put the mic on on the drawstrings or whatever. And the problem is that when I'm doing something like this, so I'm talking to you while I'm cooking and stuff, I'm looking down at my board and at my hands, and that means that I'm breathing into a mic if the mic is too far down my front. And even though I'm not breathing any heavier than normal or struggling in any way, it sounds like I am because you can hear every breath sound. And when you're talking, of course, your breathing is a little bit more pronounced because you're talking, so you're breathing in less than normal to catch, your breath between your speech, especially when you ramble the way that I ramble. And so it sounds even more pronounced. So, I apologize for that. I heard it. I tried to turn some of the background noise off, but sometimes when you turn the background noise off, it distorts everything else so much, especially when there's so many birds and animals in my background as well. And then those sounds get distorted and it just sounds really weird. So I did what I could with the limited. I only use iMovie. I have an Adobe subscription because we use InDesign for all the D&D work, and I use Photoshop and Lightroom for my photography, and the kids use it for some of their digital art projects and things like that. And it means that I've got Adobe Premiere Pro as part of the subscription, which is like one of the best video editing programs there are apparently. But I have to have the time to learn how to use it. iMovie is just so simple to use, so straightforward, so easy, and I already know how to do it, that I stick to it because it's easy. But it does mean that there is some limited editing because it's a free. Like text is one of those things. It really annoys me that you can only put text in specific spots. So like I can't overlay text in the middle of a picture or anything. I can only have it running down the bottom like I always do, or they've got animations for text that you can have in different spots, but it's less about wanting it animated and more about just wanting it, say, pointing at something or over the top of something or whatever. But if I ever have the time, I will eventually learn how to use a different editing program. But for the moment, iMovie serves me well. It's free. It works on all my Macs. It talks to each of the Macs too. It's easy enough to transfer stuff from one to the other because I have a laptop that I take with me, like when I go do groceries and stuff, a MacBook. But I also have my Mac Mini as my main system at home. So, and my iPad and my iPhone. So they all talk to each other, which is nice. Coconut's doing well. I don't think I've heard him cough for days, which is really nice. So the antibiotics have obviously done what they needed to do. He's still got some swelling around some of the wounds from the wild dogs that we still have to keep an eye on. I'm a little concerned that one of them might need lancing or something, that there might be something stuck under the skin there. Very hard to tell because of his fleece. But in general, he's fine. He's sleeping longer at night, which is nice. He's not waking me up till 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning instead of 5:30. So he's getting longer between bottles. We've offered him chaff and stuff too, so we're hoping that he slows down on that soon as well, though I'm a bit of a softie when it comes to offering bottles to baby animals, so, and that's on me. I'm the one who has to struggle with the early warnings because I keep on, you know, agreeing to give it to them. But he's doing well, and yes, you'll probably see him around my feet again today because we did have the kitchen fenced off from Lamington when Lamington was tiny and out here, but we moved the barrier, and I'm not sure, I think it's been repurposed somewhere else, but it doesn't really matter. As I always say, you don't eat off the floors in my house because we're outdoors and you can't control what's on the floors. Things get dropped, they go to the dogs. So we all wear shoes, we all, like, it's not an environment that we eat off the floors anyway. So, and we just hose things down. That's why I've got decking timber on the ground. It's easy enough to use a decking brush and hose things down and things like that. So whilst he's annoying under my feet, there's nothing that he can get to because everything is in containers and all the rest of it, because that's how we store everything. So the cats come to visit too. You regularly see the cats wandering around the kitchen. The only place they are not allowed is on the bench. And a few have been swiped and they've jumped up on my bench and they know better. So I'm sure they're on here when I'm not around because that's cats for you. But everything gets sanitized before I do anything out here anyway. You don't take for granted that nothing's been on the surface. All right, I've just got the bacon bits cooking off here, letting out some of that juice, and now I'm just going to add the onions to those. All right, I've sweated off the onion and the garlic, and the bacon has browned a bit. I've got a little burn on the bottom because I obviously had the pot a little off center and it's burned a little bit on the side, but I'm not going to deglaze it while this is in here because that would make my sausage roll mince too wet. But I might, I could cook some rice or something off in this, deglaze it and then cook some rice or something. I will figure it out because that flavor is going to be pretty good in the bottom there. But for the moment, garlic, bacon, onion. Normally I would add some celery to this, maybe some shaved carrot or something, but I don't have any celery. And honestly, I forgot about the carrot and it's too late now. So I've turned this off and let this just cool slightly, and now I have to deal with the pork roast. So I'm going to pull that out so that I can dice it up to put it through the mincer. So I've got one of my standard rolled roasts from Costco. These are only about $7 a kilo, so it's a really cheap way to buy pork that you can use for different things. So they sell pork mince as well, but like beef mince, I don't buy the beef mince. It's pre-minced from Costco because you have to do something with it straight away. So I buy the beef trim, and then it comes in the big chunks so that I can stick it in the bottom of my really cold chest fridge, and I can mince it at my leisure in different pieces, in different amounts. And sometimes I still freeze it, but a lot of the time I don't. So this was bought at the last grocery run, so we're talking, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago. The date on this one was the 19th, so it's still a couple of days in date, and it's been stored in the very bottom of our hybrid chest fridge, so it runs a lot colder than your average fridge, and it doesn't lose temperature much because it's down the bottom and it's got a top opening lid. So buying the roast, I can do however I want. Now I quite often smoke a big chunk of it just as a smoked roast. I coat it in Dijon mustard and then my pork seasoning, and I smoke it, and it's really, really good. But my smoker is currently not in commission at the moment. We had an issue with it, with the pellets. They caught fire in the hopper, and then I had to clean them out, but we ended up having to dump some water on the pellets to get them to douse because they kept on relighting. And it means that the hopper needs a really good clean out before I can use it again. And I just don't have the room right here at the moment, so I haven't done it yet. But it is on the cards, but that means that I'm not going to do a smoked roast out of any of this particular time. Now I'm pulling the rind off because what I do is I cut this into strips. I put potatoes in the bottom of cast iron baking tray, and then I put strips over this and I roast my potatoes. All the fat renders from the lard over the potatoes and they cook in that pork fat, which is delicious. I'm leaving a decent amount of fat on the roast itself. Move you up slightly, because I'm going to mince this for sausage rolls, or the other thing that I use this for all the time is making actual sausages. I was actually thinking that before it gets too hot, next shopping trip, that might be what I need to do, instead of buying 2 or 3 of these, buy 4 or 5, so that I can make a big batch of sausages to go in the freezer, because homemade sausages are delicious. So I'm just going to dice all of this up into pieces that are relevant sizing to go through the mincer. So all the pork is cut into pieces that are relevant size for the mincer. I use a Louvel mincer. There is an affiliate code in the description because I really like it. When I went looking for a mincer, I needed something that could run on my solar. I didn't want to have to run the generator for it, so it had to be a low power drawer, but also powerful enough to go through sort of 7 to 10 kilos of meat all at the same time. I actually do lard through it as well, which they don't recommend, but it has run perfectly fine. So the power drawer on this is quite low. It runs at sort of 500 when I put a meter on it. It does kick up a little bit when it's got a bit of struggle, but not too bad. So my inverter does not have a problem with this, and it does meat around about 1 kilo a minute. So all I'm going to do is run all this pork through the mincer, and then I will pull some out for the sausage rolls, and the other half will for gyozas or dumplings probably. All right, so we've got all the pork mince. Now, one thing I just wanted to show about the Louvel in case people are interested. Simple thing about it that I love. This, and it's pulled apart. Then I just spray and wipe this before it goes back on the shelf. And it's just stored underneath my bench, which is why it's a little bit discolored. And then this just gets taken, the excess bits of meat I normally just throw to the dogs that are in here, and goes over to be washed. And it's just, that's how easy it is to just pull apart and clean and store. All right, I'm going to put the rind in a freezer bag that already has some in it in the freezer to use for over potatoes like I was talking about, but I'm not going to do potatoes today. We've just got too much else that needs to be eaten, and it would just be a bit of a waste of time. And I also need to put all this in the oven, so I don't want to use the oven up for these. All right, I've pulled out about 3 kilos of pork mince here that I'll use for the gyoza. So I'm just going to put a lid on this and put that back in the fridge. I will pull that out to season it later, and then I will either freeze it or I'll wrap the gyozas and freeze those. I haven't decided yet. That might be a job for tomorrow. 24 hours in the fridge after mincing is fine. So I'm going to put a lid on that, stick that down in the bottom of the fridge. All right, we've probably got around about 4 kilos of mince here. I don't know exactly, but most of those roasts are about the 7 kilo mark, but that's including the rind and all that. So 3.5, 4 kilos of mince here. That's what I'm going to work on. So I've got the mix that I cooked that's cooled, of all the onion, bacon, garlic and stuff. And actually, because I let it cool in the Dutch oven, I was actually able to use the juices from this to deglaze the pan. So I've managed to pick up all that tasty stuff off the bottom, which is nice. So we've got basically caramelized onions, bacon bits, whole lot of garlic, elephant garlic chopped up in here, all that sort of thing. So we're going to add that to the mince. I'm also going to add a few eggs, around about 1 egg per 500 grams, so we might do half a dozen eggs. And I'm going to pull some sourdough breadcrumbs out of my freezer as well. So let me grab the eggs. All right, I've got half a dozen eggs. I'm just going to break the yolks up a bit to make it easier to blend this through. So I got half a dozen eggs. I've got, this is all the breadcrumbs I've got left in the freezer at the moment, so I'm just going to toss the whole lot in. I believe these are seasoned breadcrumbs too, like I turned stale bread into the breadcrumbs, but I've seasoned them for using with various things. So I'm going to put that in there as well. And actually when I was in the freezer, I saw that I've got an open end of the, you know, that faux Parmesan cheese type stuff. So I'm going to throw that in there. That will add some extra flavor. I'm going to grab some of the mushroom salt that I made and do a generous sort of a, so this was dehydrated mushrooms with some flake salt, some thyme, all that sort of tasty stuff. And then I'll probably just pull that together and see the texture, how the texture looks. I'm going to just use my hands to blend it all through. We want it to emulsify slightly because it makes it easier to fill the pastry that way. But we don't want to overwork it because it'll end up tough, like when you're making meatballs and things like that. We're going to call that good. So there we go. So now I'm just going to give my hands a rinse and get my workspace set up to start rolling these. All right, so I buy puff pastry. It is not something that I spend the time to make. I can make a rough puff pastry and it is lovely, but if I'm going to make it, I probably would make it for something like a rustic tart type thing for fruit for dessert or something. But sausage rolls, in the quantity that I make them, it's really not time efficient to be making puff pastry. And when you can buy such good quality puff pastry from Costco, this is the Borg stuff, then it just doesn't make sense. So for me, I buy puff pastry and I buy a couple of packs of it per shopping trip, and sometimes I use it all and sometimes I don't, and then it's fine because it sits in the freezer. Now, because it does defrost slightly on the trip home regularly, I do sometimes run into some problems when I'm pulling it apart. We get some tears in it because it just doesn't want to come apart cleanly and things like that, but that just makes it more rustic, doesn't it? So we've sliced these in half lengthwise. Well, they're sort of square, so, but we've sliced them in half, and this is how we make our sausage rolls. So Kavik wants to help, so it's going to be messy once we get started, but he can wait a second, please. And I will do the first one as a demonstration. So we put a line of meat in the middle of half of the pastry. You don't want too much because if you can't get it to seal, then when it cooks, it all just falls out. And it just isn't as tasty. So you want enough that you've got a good ratio of filling to pastry, because, you know, as much as pastry's yummy, you still want a decent amount of filling in there. And then you pull the pastry up over it, tuck it all in nice and get it some nice and firm in there. And then all I do is I bring it over, and if I put a bit too much meat in here, if there's a bit too much meat in here and it's overflowing a little bit here, then I will just scrape some out at that point. And then I just roll it so that we've got a sealed sausage of pastry, nice and firm, but all the edges are sealed. So then I'm just going to place this on a tray for the moment, though I haven't got paper on the tray yet. I need to do that. So now we're just going to go through and do the rest of them. I'll show you once we've got the tray full. I was going to chat while I was doing this, but I don't like chatting with an audience, and Kavik's here, so I will chat afterwards. Kavik helped me roll. Sonnet and Darryl helped brush and sprinkle with seasoning. I like to score them before I cut them, just because I find that they cook through a little quicker than doing them as one big sausage. And then they're easy to break on the score line as well. So I do have a bit of mince left, so I am going to have to soften a little bit more pastry, but I got 3 full trays to start with, and I will put a second rack in the oven so that I can put all 3 trays in at once, and I'll just rotate them as needed. All right, so egg wash, everything bagel, all rolled up. We'll get these into the oven. All right, so I need to do a few more. I've got to soften the pastry because I only pulled 1 packet of pastry out of the freezer, not knowing whether I'd need any more, and I do. So I've got a couple of pieces out, but they need to soften before I can roll them. Otherwise, they'll just crack. So while I'm waiting for that, what was I going to do? The 3D printing. So I shared the vending machines last week, and I'm still working on that. I've got a photo here. I did the smaller size one, so here's a photo of all the different sizes, and I'm not happy with the size of the smaller one. I think it's a little too small, so I'm actually printing one at 90% at the moment, and I'm going to compare that, and I've got some different size capsule bowls coming in the mail to see what sizes fit best for each one and how many can fit in each hopper, because I was thinking about for Advent for us, we tend to I just refill them. I fill them, stick them in a box. Once they're empty, refill them, put them back in. And because, there were 6 kids last year that were taking them, so we needed a lot of them. But for those who are having like 1 per child or something like that, if that's what they were doing, or they only have 1 child to buy one for, then it'd be interesting to know how many balls fit in the hopper, as to whether you need to refill them and that. I don't know if I decide to do them, which is partly why having a Discord server or something would be handy, because I could have these discussions with people too. I have to price them appropriately, and they're not going to be cheap because there's a lot of time in them. But would people prefer empty balls to fill themselves, or would some people prefer the option to have balls that are pre-filled? And things like that, because what I tend to do for my kids is I collect throughout the next few months, I collect all sorts of bits and pieces that will fit in the balls, and I stash them. Little Lego kits or little squishies, or we had like little squishy axolotls that were very cute last year, and there were some food squishies and some slimes and bits and pieces like that. So maybe I do some categories up if I'm going to be buying that sort of stuff for myself, so that people can choose to have theirs come with balls already filled if that's not their thing, if they're not keen on doing that. The other thing was that they could have sayings in them rather than, or like some Advents have like family type things, like, I'm trying to think that you all read a book together that night, or this gives you 15 minutes or half an hour of time to sit and chat with someone, or things like that. I don't know about any sort of religious aspect to it, because obviously I'm not religious, but I could have a talk to Darryl about that. Maybe there's some, like, you could have slips that have something, readings in them or something, or reference there, if that was the thing. I don't know. And some people are going to want to do it themselves, like I always did. I filled them myself. I liked collecting all the things. I liked doing all that. But some people very much would prefer to have everything turn up for them. I just heard yelling, and I can hear they're riding around in the little cart out the back having fun. It's a really nice day today. It's still not overly warm, but it's pleasant. It's nice and sunny, and out in the sun it's warm enough to be in short sleeves and stuff like that. Coconut is nearly due for a bottle, which is why he's being very vocal, but we're dragging him out a little bit more and getting him to eat chaff a bit more. But anyway, so yes, I have a photo of those vending machines. I'd love some feedback on them if people are interested. The toilet paper rolls, I should have some prototypes done for the next chat video. I was creating some seamless patterns for the outside, like I've got some with mushrooms on them, which I really liked, but I also was trying to decide if I wanted to do any sayings or anything. I also have a bunch of bookmarks in the work as well, because I really like the idea of reusable bookmarks, especially now that I'm doing books again, because I'm actually getting some physical books as well as my digital books, and I really like the idea of having these nice bookmarks to go with them. So there's a whole bunch of things that are in progress, but life has just been a little hard lately, and it's been a little overwhelming, and so I just haven't been, the creative stuff is really hard. I find doing the drawing and the motivation to create is quite difficult when life is overwhelming. So it's hard because I need to get it done early enough for it to be appropriate for Christmas too. And realistically, I should be doing stuff all year round. Like, you know, Father's Day is in a couple of weeks, and those family trees and stuff would be great for Father's Day, or like the Father's Day frog that I 3D printed, or, you know, I do a whole bunch of Star Wars type stuff in the chunks and that. I'll put out, I've got an Iron Man that one of the kids requested, or there's these weapons that the kids are really adoring. I've got a lightsaber that's in progress for Darryl and things like that. And all these things I could offer for events, but I haven't got there. All right, so I got interrupted and I've got no idea where I was at. I've moved into the office space because the kids are out listening to music. So as drill's done, I'll put some footage in here of them finished. A whole tray got eaten for lunch, and the rest have been put away to be frozen for another couple of meals. I don't want them for dinner tonight because there is leftover pizza dough. So if you follow me on Facebook, you would have seen that I've got a new pizza oven. I got it from Kegland. I bought it. It wasn't sponsored. We wanted one to try so that I could stop using the one on top of the big barbecue because I want to get that barbecue out of the kitchen. And so we've been figuring out how to do pizzas on it. We had pizzas 2 nights in a row. They worked wonderfully, but there is some dough left. So I think the kids are going to cook them for themselves for dinner tonight. I've got some chicken thighs with skin on to cook for Darryl and I. So, yes, new pizza oven. I will do a full video from the start of the pizza dough all the way through to making the pizzas with that one to show that one off, which is really cool. Other than that, I don't know. I think that's it. I have completely just lost where I was at. So I'm going to end it here and say see you on the next video. And I'll have to pull it all onto my computer and see if there was anything that I missed or if it flows together or not, but we shall see. So thank you for joining me on my Sunday squirrel video like normal, and I will see you guys on the next video.